Millions watched the finished performance. Almost no one watched what it cost to get there. Horror films, haunted houses, and criminals dressed sharper than anyone in the room. There is a reason certain images from popular culture never fade. Greatness is rarely an accident, and behind every effortless-looking moment sits a mountain of repetition that nobody was ever meant to see. Before we get into it, ask yourself this: how many hours of practice do you think it actually takes to make a single move look natural? Keep that number in your head, because by the end of this video you may want to revise it upward. Let us start with a question. What if the part of a song people remember most is not the melody at all, but the feeling that something is watching from just outside the light? One track broke away completely from the rest of its album by fusing a dance groove with the atmosphere of a classic monster movie. Underneath the hook, synthesizers hiss and creak, sound effects crawl under the bass line, and a spoken interlude drops in like dialogue lifted from a nightmare. Nothing about the record followed the standard pop formula. Instead, the goal was a miniature theatrical experience. Somewhere suspense, fantasy, and rhythm could all share the same stage. Horror imagery was stitched directly into the lyrics, turning what could have been an ordinary dance single into something considerably stranger and larger. That ambition did not stay contained to the studio. Through choreography, a short film, and imagery that audiences still recognize on sight, the song grew into a genuine cultural phenomenon, one that has refused to age out of relevance. Decades on, references to it are everywhere, from Halloween costumes to sample-heavy remixes. The music opens the door, but it is that lingering sense of dread that keeps people walking back through it. Now picture a black and white photograph that occasionally circulates online, a man resembling the performer, apparently resting on a dance studio floor after a brutal rehearsal session. A fedora is pulled low over closed eyes. A pair of worn-out shoes sit nearby. What catches the eye first, though, are the bright white socks marked with deep red stains. Some say it was stage blood, tied to a specific artistic sequence. Others dispute whether the photo is even genuine. Nobody has ever fully settled it. What do you make of an image like that? Drop your theory in the comments, because the debate over its authenticity is still very much alive among longtime fans. Before we move on, if this kind of behind-the-curtain storytelling is something you enjoy, sticking around for the rest of this one will make the next section land even harder. Let us talk numbers, because the scale of what came next is easy to underestimate. On September 12, 1987, in Japan, the artist launched his first solo world tour, a production that would eventually be remembered as one of the most extraordinary live spectacles the industry had ever staged. Over roughly 16 months, the tour delivered 123 shows across 15 countries in Asia, Europe, North America, and Australia, drawing a combined audience of around 4.4 million people and grossing approximately $125 million, a figure that made it the second highest grossing tour of the entire decade. In London alone, 7 consecutive sold-out nights at Wembley Stadium pulled in roughly 504,000 attendees, a number so large it earned a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. None of that happened by luck. Long before doors opened each night, the artist could be found in empty arenas hours ahead of schedule, running the same footwork and vocal cues over and over until every gesture looked automatic. Groundbreaking staging, dramatic lighting rigs, and constant costume changes turned every performance into something closer to cinema than a typical concert, and in the process, permanently reset audience expectations for what a stadium show could be. From spectacle, let us move to obsession, because one of the most famous bass lines in music history was born out of something far darker than inspiration. Years of fame had brought a level of scrutiny that blurred into something closer to fixation: unfounded paternity claims, unsettling fan letters, and a growing awareness that admiration could tip into something threatening. Out of that unease came a song built around obsession, illusion, and the price of celebrity. The music itself arrived almost by accident, with a driving bass line taking shape in the artist's head during a car ride and simply refusing to let go. Around that rhythm, a tense, cinematic narrative was constructed, eventually becoming one of the most instantly recognizable songs ever released. Its influence reached far beyond the recording booth. A now legendary television performance was rehearsed relentlessly beforehand, with footage later surfacing that shows every step being drilled until it appeared effortless. And yet, even after the world erupted in applause, satisfaction did not come easily backstage, since the performer initially felt he had botched the landing on his signature toe stand. It reportedly took a phone call from a legendary dance figure offering sincere praise for the routine to convince him the performance had actually succeeded. Do you think perfectionism like that helps build legendary careers, or does it eventually become a burden of its own? That is worth sitting with. Sticking with television history, there is a single sequence that made an entire generation question basic physics. During a live broadcast in 1983, a brief dance break stunned viewers and instantly became one of the most replayed images in entertainment history. The illusion made it look as though the performer was striding forward while his body drifted backward, seemingly defying gravity in real time. A cultural phenomenon was born in a matter of seconds. Technically, the move relied on precise footwork and careful weight transfer, drawing on underground street styles, including the backslide technique borrowed and refined from earlier popping and boogaloo dancers the performer had studied closely. Yet the significance went far beyond mechanics. On stage, it looked less like a dance step and more like an act of levitation. Behind that public image stood someone navigating extraordinary pressure and a level of scrutiny most people will never experience, something worth remembering the next time you see the move referenced in a meme or a commercial. Even now, that single sequence remains a reference point for performers worldwide, studied frame by frame and reinterpreted across genres and generations. Here is a strange one. Most people spend their downtime avoiding anything resembling a skeleton. One performer spent roughly 6 weeks teaching one to dance. In the mid-1990s, a music video expanded into a nearly 40-minute short film built around choreography, storytelling, and visual effects that were cutting-edge for the era. Compared to earlier supernatural-themed projects, this one placed movement itself at the center of the horror. Sharp stomps echoed through mansion hallways. Aggressive sweeps, rapid spins, dramatic body isolations, and intense facial expressions replaced the lighter, playful energy audiences had grown used to. The choreography felt heavier, darker, more confrontational, with even the smallest gestures carrying real attitude. The film's standout moment featured an animated skeleton dancing in perfect sync with the human performer, achieved by digitally mapping real motion data onto the character, a genuinely early use of motion capture in mainstream entertainment. What do you think held up better over time, the technology or the choreography? Let us know which one impressed you more. From dancing skeletons to a stunt that still puzzles engineers. For a few seconds, audiences stopped listening to the song entirely and started questioning what they were seeing. Released during this same era, one particular track told a tense story involving a mysterious intruder, a character named Annie, and a crime wrapped in dread. Built around a pounding beat and eerie heartbeat effects, the song quickly became one of the most recognized tracks of its time. But it was the accompanying short film that really cemented its legacy. Near the climax, performers leaned forward at an angle that appeared physically impossible, with no visible ropes, no support beams, and no obvious explanation. In the original film, hidden rigging made the illusion possible. For live shows, engineers eventually developed a specially designed shoe mechanism that locked into anchors built into the stage floor, letting performers achieve that extreme forward tilt in front of thousands of people. Even with the mechanism in place, the move still demanded exceptional core strength and timing, since the hardware only worked if the performer's body stayed rigid throughout. Decades later, that lean is still referenced as one of the more clever fusions of choreography and stage engineering in pop history. Now for a chapter that never got its finale. The stage was built. The tickets were gone within hours. A comeback was already in motion. Then everything changed. In 2009, preparations were underway for what many expected to become one of the most ambitious concert residencies ever staged, blending cutting-edge visuals, layered storytelling, and reimagined versions of career-defining performances. Behind the scenes, rehearsal after rehearsal focused on balancing fluid, natural gesture with razor-sharp technical precision, weaving familiar signature moves into a more contemporary style. The level of care was obvious, even in raw rehearsal footage, with every cue and transition refined again and again in pursuit of a flawless show. Here is the part that makes it genuinely haunting. The cameras were only ever meant to capture reference footage for the production team, not to create a film for public release. After the artist's death later that year, those recordings became something nobody had planned for, an unintended final document of a performer still chasing perfection right up to the end. The concerts themselves never happened, but the rehearsal tapes remain a strange, quietly moving record of the work that never got to reach an audience. Have you ever seen behind-the-scenes footage of a project that never came out? It hits differently. Legends like this one are not only heard, they are watched. One 1983 single became a defining slice of hard rock filtered through pop, produced with a guitar solo contributed by a well-known rock musician of the era. It topped charts worldwide and became one of the best-selling singles in history, moving well over 10 million copies. Its accompanying video, which featured real members of rival street gangs, helped establish the artist as a genre-crossing force capable of bridging pop, R&B, and rock in a single frame, permanently changing what a music video could attempt. The performance itself blended precision with raw street energy, sharp knife-hand arm swings, locked elbows, and explosive chest hits, punctuated by shoulder shimmies, high kicks, tight spins, toe stands, and sudden freezes that became instantly identifiable trademarks. Crotch grabs, hip thrusts, finger snaps, and sharp stomps turned the choreography into a form of visual storytelling in its own right, elevating the track from a hit single into a genuine cultural landmark whose fingerprints are still visible in music videos today. Some songs are simply louder than the systems they are criticizing. One track, pulled from a double album shaped by frustration and reflection, stands as one of the most confrontational works in modern pop history. Built on militaristic percussion, samba-infused rhythm, and a chant-like chorus, it converted personal anger into a collective statement against injustice and social neglect. What started as a shelved idea eventually became a fully realized, politically charged piece, shaped through intense studio collaboration and international influence. Its lyrics stirred real controversy and drew accusations from some listeners, though the artist maintained the intent was to expose discrimination rather than endorse it. Two contrasting music videos widened its reach further, one set inside a vibrant, culturally rich community space, the other inside a stark, confined setting layered with real archival footage of war and violence. Together, they turned the song into something closer to a global protest anthem than a conventional single, and its message has only grown more resonant with time. If you are enjoying this kind of deep dive into the craft behind these performances, consider tapping like and following along, since more breakdowns like this one are on the way. When confidence turns into sound, rhythm becomes attitude. One title track marked a genuine turning point in the artist's creative identity, shaped from a real story about pride, struggle, and survival, and transformed into a bold declaration of self-assertion. Built on sharp bass lines, punchy percussion, and an aggressive vocal delivery, the track was engineered to project edge and strength. Its accompanying short film, directed by a celebrated filmmaker, reimagined a subway confrontation as a stylized dance battle, blending cinematic tension with street-inspired movement. Every step carried deliberate weight, fast footwork, sharp arm hits, controlled spins, and tightly synchronized group formations that reinforce tension rather than softness. Commercially, the song topped charts around the world and helped cement a sharper, more assertive public image, proving that a single track could function as both a hit record and a personal statement. When desire turns dangerous, even a groove can feel like a warning. One hard-edged, rock-influenced track explored the pressure of obsessive fan culture, layered with aggressive guitar work that gave it a noticeably heavier sound than earlier pop hits. Lyrically, it told the story of a performer caught in emotional conflict, drawn toward the attention of a relentless admirer who represented the darker side of fame. Rather than simply celebrating or rejecting temptation, the song captured something more psychologically complex: guilt, resistance, and a growing sense of losing control. It sparked debate at the time, with some listeners misreading its intent, while others recognized it as a cautionary story about power and vulnerability, rather than a simple narrative of desire. One wrong step could break the entire illusion. That was the reality of rehearsals heading into the early 1990s, an era that blended courtly elegance with street-level sharpness into something entirely new. Every practice session focused on stripping movement down to its rawest form, letting rhythm dictate posture, while dancers trained as a single, mechanically precise unit. Underneath all that structure, real emotion stayed present, since every snap, freeze, and turn demanded exact coordination, built from endless repetition. On stage, the resulting performances carried a noir-like intensity, where the silence between beats mattered just as much as the movement itself. That tension between fluid motion and rigid control reshaped live pop choreography for years afterward, and every one of those precise, snapping movements you may have seen in archival clips was the product of relentless discipline rather than natural talent alone. Sometimes the strongest emotions are the ones nobody says out loud. One song from this same period became one of the most mysterious and emotionally charged entries in the catalog, built around themes of desire, secrecy, and hidden romance. The production blended a prominent producer's signature swing sound with an unusually intimate vocal performance, while a mystery guest vocalist added an extra layer of intrigue that fans spent years trying to identify. The accompanying video prioritized atmosphere over spectacle, favoring a simple desert setting over elaborate group choreography. Instead of large-scale dance numbers, the performance relied on subtle body language, shoulder rolls, restrained footwork, and long dramatic pauses that conveyed attraction and tension without a single word. Sometimes charisma outperforms any special effect a production budget can buy. One beloved single blended storytelling, music, and dance into a performance driven almost entirely by personality. The video was deliberately grounded, capturing the energy of a lively street scene rather than a fantasy backdrop. Compared to the tightly engineered choreography seen elsewhere in the catalog, the dancing here felt loose and spontaneous, built from finger snaps, quick spins, shoulder pops, chest isolations, toe stands, and sudden freezes. The focus sat less on technical complexity and more on character, portraying someone trying to win over another person's attention through pure presence. Decades later, it still holds up as a showcase of natural charm layered on top of serious technical skill. A global pop anthem once hid a much more dangerous idea underneath its catchy surface. One 1991 single arrived wrapped in bright visuals and an instantly memorable melody, while private rehearsal footage tells a far more aggressive story. Early scenes leaned into unity and cultural celebration, paired with a driving pop rhythm layered against a blistering rock guitar riff. Then came a segment built around raw, almost feral improvisation, inspired by the sharp, controlled aggression of a predator in motion, sudden freezes, intense expressions, and explosive bursts of speed that broke from every polished formula the era had trained audiences to expect. That fusion of elegance and controlled chaos still stands as one of the more daring artistic risks of the period, and later live performances only confirmed how well the choreography had aged. An elaborate, big-budget production once transformed a studio backlot into a recreation of ancient Egypt for a single music video. One 1992 single blended smooth R&B with a New Jack Swing foundation, exploring the bittersweet pull of a lost romance and the memories that outlast it. The video assembled a celebrated ensemble cast and leaned fully into cinematic scale, featuring elaborate sets, a large ensemble, and intricate group choreography built around a fantastical narrative involving royalty and a mysterious figure who appears and disappears in a swirl of sand. Running well past 9 minutes, it remains one of the most ambitious music video productions of its decade. Even though the single itself landed just outside the very top of the charts, its cultural footprint has outlasted plenty of tracks that outperformed it commercially, proving once again that chart position and long-term influence do not always move together. Every frame in these performances reflects the same underlying commitment: relentless repetition in service of a moment that looks completely effortless on screen. Rehearsal footage, like the pieces referenced throughout this video, reveals a side of the work audiences rarely get to see: the unglamorous, repetitive foundation beneath every iconic image. Behind the costumes, the lighting rigs, and the special effects that captured millions of viewers, The real foundation of this legacy was built quietly, in empty rehearsal rooms, long before any of it reached a stage. Which of these moments surprised you the most? The technical illusions, the hidden backstories, or the sheer scale of the numbers involved? Leave your answer below, and if there is a specific performance or era you would like broken down in more detail next, say so in the comments, since that feedback genuinely shapes what gets covered going forward.